And welcome to Hamilton. Obviously also welcome to the National Party off-site today with our caucus. We had a great night last night. We had all of our families and partners in town, and it was just wonderful to have everybody together, and it was great to see our team as energised and ready to go for 2025, and that's what a lot of our focus and conversation will be about today as well. Look, I mean, as I say, a year and a bit into this job, I have to say New Zealand has a fantastic future ahead of it itself. There is no reasons why we can't do exceptionally well in the world. As I take a step back and think about our position in the Indo-Pacific region, when you think about the abundant natural resources we have, the strong social and democratic institutions, and most importantly, some amazing, creative, talented, driven, ambitious people, I think New Zealand has a fantastic future ahead of it, and there should be no excuses for why we can't go realise that potential and that future for ourselves. So as we've talked about, no doubt about it, still a very tough time for Kiwis, and that's why it's important that we have a relentless focus on economic growth in the coming year. It is really important. That's how New Zealanders get higher incomes. That's actually how they be able to get ahead. That's actually how they set their kids up and grandkids up for a great future in this country, and that's what we are very, very focused on. As you would have seen already this year, we've done a quick trip to the UAE to sign up a new free trade agreement with the UAE and also an investment treaty. We've had our reshuffle on the weekend and also announced that we want to appoint Nicola to the role of Minister of Economic Growth so that she can drive that agenda across the whole of our government. And again, today we'll be very, very focused, and we'll talk more about it in the coming weeks and months about more of that economic plan as we unpack that and most importantly get it delivered and drive it into our plans across government. What we've done already has been significant. If you think about the last year, the fast tracking of projects, the removal of a lot of regulations, the focus on getting our education back to basics, all of those things are contributing to us being able to realise a better economic future. But there's a lot more for us to do, and that is the focus for the coming year and the caucus conversations that we'll be having today as well. Nicola, any thoughts from you?
Oh, look, I've been delighted by the reception from the business community to the economic growth portfolio. Look, they benefit from the stable macroeconomic environment that we have achieved in the past year. Lower inflation has meant lower interest rates. That is flowing through to households for the first time since 2011. New Zealanders are now facing a drop in the average mortgage rate, and what that means is more disposable income, which helps them with the cost of living and helps our small businesses. But there is so much more we can do. I'm thinking about this portfolio in terms of what are the actions the government can take in the short term, the medium term and the long term to make this a wealthier economy where people can earn more and have more opportunities. In the short term, that's things like working alongside industry to drive up tourism numbers. Already in January and December, we've had the highest number of international visitor arrivals in 5 years. I want to see those numbers go higher. It's about things like international education and how we can get our settings right there. In the medium term, our reform agenda already focused around skills, around reducing regulation, around driving more overseas trade and investment and making the most of the agreements we have, putting out the welcome mat to some of the cash around the world, ensuring that we are driving science and innovation, not just in the government system, but working alongside our small businesses, our software firms to say, what will it take to get you investing in innovation from around the world and unique to New Zealand? And then looking at the issues of infrastructure and how we attract capital to that, deliver it more efficiently. So that reform agenda will continue. My job is to drive it at pace, to make sure we are prioritising the actions that will make the biggest difference. Success is a business owner, an industry leader saying, I have the confidence to create new jobs, to invest in that next piece of machinery, to make New Zealand the home for my business. So delighted to have the portfolio, huge enthusiasm from around the country, and we'll be cooking with gas.
Awesome. Great. With that, have you taken any questions you may have?
Is this focus on economic growth an admission that you didn't pay it enough attention last year?
No, I'm very proud of what we did last year. If you think about it, we made some very significant structural reform last year around fast track, around getting rid of red tape, freeing up our farmers, putting in place the basics on education, making sure we gave people tax relief, inflation relief, interest rate relief. So we did a lot of work last year, but what there is, and the Kiwis that I spoke to over summer, they want us to double down and they want us to actually go even harder on making sure we deliver and drive economic growth into New Zealand. And, you know, we've come a long way in a year. You know, we've inherited a a hell of a mess in a recession, but now we've got to march ourselves out of it to that potential and that great future that I think we have. And so, Nicola's right, that's why our focus has been on education. It's about infrastructure, it's about capital, it's about making sure we get rid of red tape, good competition in our markets, trade, investment, infrastructure. Those are really important for our future. So, and we can do this. It's a big investment. It's going to be a big ask. It's going to be a big drive. But New Zealand can deliver this. We can do this.
Economic development wasn't even a portfolio inside Cabinet for the better part of the last year. So were you actually taking it seriously?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, I mean, be under no illusions. We have been working all year, last year, on making sure we are driving the economy and fixing up, initially a big focus on fiscal repair, making sure we stop the wasteful spending. You saw us prioritise the cost of living crisis. We broke the back of that with lower inflation, lower interest rates. Now it's about pushing on and driving even more definitively into growth. We talked about at the beginning of last year about our 5-point plan around how we drive long-term economic growth and long-term economic productivity into New Zealand. Now we want to accelerate that and put even more volume and voice to it.
So what was Melissa Lee doing? Because we were in a technical recession and she wasn't even at the Cabinet table to be part of those discussions. So what was Melissa
Well, I can tell you that myself, Nicola, our Associate Finance Ministers have been working incredibly hard on driving our economic agenda, and you saw a range of activity over the course of last year that was very, very focused on our growth.
Melissa Lee was just a face for that portfolio. She
Well,
wasn't actually doing any work.
as you saw on the weekend, we've refocused that portfolio on economic growth so that there is a pan-government focus on doing that. I'd say we have been focused on driving the economy, as you've seen. And this is the story that we've been telling now for a number of years. You have to get government spending under control so that you can get inflation under control. When you get inflation under control, interest rates come down, and now we're in a place where we've got good levels of confidence, but it's now got to translate into growth and it's got to translate into jobs.
You're a Prime Minister who said that mental health is important, and that's why it's a ministerial portfolio inside Cabinet.
Yes.
If economic growth is important, why did you have such a massive oversight of not having economic development?
Well, I'll just say to you, we've got a great Minister of Finance and Cabinet last year. We've got a great Minister of Infrastructure, Transport, local governments, all of...
Been in the job for 5 minutes.
No, I'll just say to you, we've been working on education, infrastructure, red tape and regulation. We've been working on making sure we get trade and investment in the right places. All of those ministers are in Cabinet. It's a job for all of our Cabinet to focus on economic
And
growth.
Joe, if I can just add to that, when I think about my role as Economic Growth Minister, it's partly about leading and driving the team of economic ministers who sit around the Cabinet table. David Seymour's work in reducing regulation, critical to our small businesses. What Chris Penk is doing in terms of reducing red tape in the construction area, really important. Erica Stanford's work in immigration and education.
Todd McClay, trade.
Right, Todd McClay with trade and investment. My point is, there are many ministers around the Cabinet table who should be driving economic growth every day. I have a new mandate to lead that work.
Encompassed all of that. So was Melissa Lee driving those ministers last year?
I was driving those ministers and our Cabinet and our team across economic growth.
Was it a clear waste of space last year?
No, it's not. No, but what we're saying is we've been working on an economic growth plan in the last half of last year. That's important work, but we do that across a range of our big economic senior ministers, and that's what we've been doing. But I just say to you, if you're a New Zealander out there at the moment, they want us focused on economic growth. That is how they get ahead. That's how they get better incomes. That's how their kids and grandkids choose to stay here in this place, that they believe they can work hard and get ahead. We know that when we look at other small advanced countries around the world, that there's a huge opportunity for us to actually step it up, to improve our economic productivity, a problem we've had for over 30 years in this country. And that's what this government's going to be very, very focused on. Sorry, Maki.
Do you accept that a number of people still believe that you haven't sorted out the economic issues?
I think New Zealanders can see we've worked incredibly hard to clean up the fiscal mess that we inherited coming into government in the first year. But my messages, as I've spoken to Kiwis over summer, is they want us to even go more harder at it and to continue to stay very, very focused on doing everything we can to ultimately make New Zealand welfare and them welfare so they get a better quality of life.
So are you hearing from those Kiwis that they still don't feel like it's completely sorted?
What I hear about from New Zealanders is it's still really tough, and they want to know that there's a pathway to steady economic growth, which we're going to make sure we get out of these recessionary conditions that we've been in now for almost 3 years. But importantly, this is about us realising our own future and our own potential. This, as I said at the beginning, is a fantastic country with huge potential, and we now need to go to work and realise that. That's why I came to politics 4 years ago. I think New Zealand can be a lot better. I think we can be a lot wealthier. And as a result, but the way we go about dealing with that is we've got to deal with the root causes of what's been holding back our economic productivity and growth over what I think is now 20 or 30 years. And that is, we have to build a world-class education system. We have to make sure that we embrace more science, technology, innovation, and importantly, convert it, that it leads to more innovation in businesses. It's why I have Peter Beck here this afternoon, because I want to talk about his journey and his story as science and technology and innovation, how a big business has been built off the back of that. We have to convert that opportunity of science, technology. We have to make sure we've got modern, reliable infrastructure in this country. And in order to do that, we are going to use international pools of capital as well as domestic pools of capital. And we're going to make sure we get rid of the red tape, we put more competition in, and we importantly have stronger connections with more trade, more investment opportunities. Those are the foundational things, ultimately, that is going to make New Zealand a wealthier place and lift the living standards for all Kiwis.
Speaking of science and technology, why are you giving it to someone who you just gave a massive demotion to?
Because he's going to be brilliant at actually understanding the link between universities and science and technology and innovation. We have studied now for a number of years what's happened in Ireland when you look at the ecosystem of science, technology, innovation, startup culture in Israel, when you look at what's happened in Denmark, when you look at what's happening in Singapore. There is a lot for us to do. We have great scientists in New Zealand, but actually we need to make sure that we actually pull the ecosystem together with the research and development done in universities, the research and development done in Crown Institutes, the research and development done within businesses, pull that together and make sure that it actually then is commercialised and actually creating opportunity and jobs and more value added to our products and services we sell around the world. That's pretty exciting work. So we've got some good starting points, but Shane Reddy will be excellent at that, understanding advanced education and also the research and development science work. Sorry, Richard.
Peter Beck's been a beneficiary of a substantial amount of government assistance, both financial and practical. Are you going to be able to offer similar assistance to future Peter Becks if you're cracking down hard on the fiscal situation?
Well, again, you'll hear us talk more about how we plan to operationalise the science and technology system so that we can get better businesses and bigger businesses in place. But we will, of course, will continue to make support entrepreneurs who actually, where they actually can get that breakthrough and get that start and get away and actually build their business out from there. But I'd also say to you, Peter Beck has had huge investments from overseas pension funds into his business very early on as well, and he's obviously gone through and raised Series A and Series B money very, very successfully. So, often there is a need for some catalysts and some focus and support that can come in a financial sense or a non-financial sense. Increasingly, it's up to good entrepreneurs to go out in a world that's awash with cash. They've got a great proposition and a good product and service. They should be able to raise money for it here in New Zealand or all around the world. But again, think about the work of NZTE. It's doing a great job out there in the world, making sure our exporters understand those markets as we want to double the value of our exports.
Pen, if I just can, Rocket Lab's a great case study for why a good regulatory environment matters. When we talk about reducing red tape, what Stephen Joyce did with the space sector was he recognised an emerging opportunity. He talked to the likes of Peter Beck, who said one thing you could do is make sure that this is the best place to have a space industry. And so the government reformed the regulations there, and that was a huge enabler. Now, let's take that approach in other sectors and other areas where our rules, our regulations, our laws can get in the way, and instead say, let's make it easy for you.
In December, there was a record low electricity demand, caused largely by the demise of the Central North Island timber mill and pulp mills. Is there a need to reform the electricity market? And if so, what could you do?
You're going to see us very focused on improving competition across New Zealand, and I think that's a fair question, which is whether it's in the area of banking or whether it's in the area of supermarkets or energy. We want to see more competition. We want to see more innovation. What I'd say to you is that we've got abundant natural resources in New Zealand, and we shouldn't have found ourselves in the situation we found ourselves over winter with really high wholesale electricity prices. We actually think there is work that we can do to actually improve that competition and push them harder. Big time, big time, big time. That will be a key. I'm not going to get into that today, but what I just say to you is that without doubt, pro-competition and more competition in a country that actually is a long way away from places, often has a few big players operating within our sectors. We want to start shaking that up. You started to see us do a little bit of that last year with respect to international building products and actually certifying products from overseas that would be acceptable here to be used in New Zealand. But there's a lot more work for us to do in unleashing competition in New Zealand. And that's a message I'd send out pretty strongly to the business community, which is that we are a party that is built on and prioritises competition, and whether that's large companies or small companies, we want to see a much more competitive environment emerge.
So given the appointment of Senator as Health Minister, can you give women and house-bound assurance that abortion laws won't change under his watch?
Yes, as I've said before, there'll be no change to those laws.
Have you received any communications from the likes of abortion rights groups that are concerned about his appointment as Health Minister?
No, and they shouldn't be, because as I said, there will be no change.
Can you understand why some women may be nervous about that?
All I can say, what I've said for the last year or so, is that there will be absolutely no change to our abortion laws.
So if he looks to remove any access to abortion services in New Zealand, you step in?
Correct. We have said very clearly that there will be no change to what the current settings are around abortion.
When will we see more definition to this economic plan you're talking about, and specifically how will it be different from all the other things you've spoken of today and what Finance Minister was listening?
Well, I mean, you're going to see us over the coming weeks and months talk a lot more about each of the component parts of our economic growth plan, and that's going to be a constant diet through the course of this year. Nicola, maybe you want to add to that?
Yeah, look, expect a rolling wall. We are going to be making continuous announcements as part of the economic growth plan. I will be pulling together the current program of activity and then testing that in two ways. One, making sure we're prioritising the things that need to move fast, but two, engaging with small business owners, with industry leaders, with innovators to say, here's what's currently on the plan, what would you add, what would you accelerate, what would you stop? And so that will be my role for these coming months, driving that forward.
Yeah, so
You almost like you made a pitch at the top for foreign companies, coming to New Zealand. What are you going to do?
well, I mean, it's not a surprise, but every visit I've done internationally, I've spent at least 2 hours in front of global sovereign wealth funds in each country that I've visited. I was in the UAE recently. I met with, obviously the Minister for Investment, who's responsible for, it is the capital of capital in terms of the sovereign wealth funds that are there. What I'm finding is that there is huge wealth in the world, sovereign wealth pension funds that are sitting out there that actually have an appetite for investing in New Zealand. You now have a government for the first time that's very open to making sure we bring in foreign direct investment and overseas pools of capital. And the challenge actually is now the conversations that we started, say, in the UAE, which is where are the areas of interest to them and their investment portfolio, and where are the interests to us as a government. And what we need to do is actually wire the two groups together. And so there's more that we'll do on that in the course of the first half of this year. Sorry? Well, we're working hard to make sure that, well, it's an important first step. I mean, it's about making sure that everybody has visibility to what the investable opportunities are here in New Zealand. You've got to remember, this is a world of 195 countries and 8 billion people. If you don't have share of mind, if you're not making the case to overseas capital that actually this is a great place to invest, and why wouldn't you want to invest in New Zealand? One of the safest, best places, most transparent places in the world to do business in. But their knowledge of what's their knowledge. No, we're talking about the huge opportunities that we have around our core infrastructure to invest. There's real opportunities when we bring in global investment from overseas with our domestic firms in New Zealand because it improves their productivity. And there's also real opportunities with iwi, frankly, and international investors as well. So, when you think about the classes of category of assets where we want to accelerate and build out infrastructure in a much robust, faster way, get those roads of national significance built, we can't do that with our own finances. We're going to need international capital. Domestic capital.
National significance are a national thing, right? International investors maybe would have been looking at Auckland Light Rail, and then you guys come in and cancel it. So what gives international investors any confidence that with any change of government, the infrastructure programs are actually going to survive?
Well, I just say, having sat down everywhere I go, whether it's in Australia, Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, even conversations I've had initially in India and also in the Middle East, there is a huge appetite to come here and invest in New Zealand. They haven't had a government before. Yeah, sure. They haven't had a government before actually framing up what the investable opportunities actually are for them. We're taking that really seriously. We want to get our fair share of international capital and make it easy for people to make good investments in New Zealand and get good investors here to accelerate, to turbocharge, to put more growth into the country. It's quite possible, but actually carrying on and doing it the way we've been doing it, when we don't understand what it's like in the shoes of those global investors and what they need in order to, when what they need is an understanding of what's actually here to invest in. Some of them I spoke to said they came through New Zealand looking at opportunities. No one from the government showed up to meet them, no one actually engaged with them, and no one actually gave them the plan as to where the investment actually is.
All right, last one.
Sorry?
How quickly do you think you'll lock in some of that international?
Well, I mean, we'll move as fast as we possibly can. The key thing at the moment is a government's up for investment. Investors are actually up for investing in New Zealand, and what we've got to do is actually make the handshake come together and actually build awareness of actually what those opportunities are here in New Zealand.
And I,
Well, I think we can. I think we can. I mean, I think we should try. I mean, New Zealand people, for their future, we need to be able to make sure we've got shallow pools of capital. It's been a well-identified problem for 30 years, whether it's domestic or international pools of capital. We've got to use that in a much smarter way so that we can pull forward and accelerate the investment that we wouldn't be able to get to for a number of years. We have roads of national significance or big roading projects that we've talked about now for a decade that get turned on, turned off, turned on, turned off because the government, not clear about what it wants or what it's doing. And actually we can wait until 2060 for that road to get built when we have eventually our own capital for it, but otherwise we can do that quicker. Well, I don't plan it to be a failure. I plan to get going, and actually in my confidence, I have great confidence coming from a business world, having seen trade understand these investment funds and what they need, and also what the government wants and how that partnership can work, and having seen other governments, frankly, around the world make it work, there's no reason why we can't make it work. Sorry, Mikey. Sorry, I'll come to you, Joe.
Now that everyone's had a couple of days to digest your reshuffle,
Yes.
how has that landed either with your caucus or with members of the public or others that have reached out to you?
I've had incredibly positive feedback to say, great, we want you to double down, we want you to go even harder on economic growth, exactly, and Nicola's appointment's gone down incredibly well with our business community, but in other people that I've spoken to as well. And I just say to you, our caucus and our cabinet team and our ministers team is in really good shape. They're really focused. It was a good chance, as I do at the beginning of each year, I spoke to every minister about what my expectations of them, whether they had change or didn't have change in the reshuffle, about what we expect them to do, and everyone's really clear. They're pretty energised, very, very focused on the task at hand. Not at all. Former Prime Ministers haven't always gone to Waitangi. I've been the last 2 years. I've always had a strong held belief that actually going around where the treaty was signed across New Zealand is actually really important. I actually went to, again, as I said to you, I'm wanting to go celebrate Waitangi with other iwi, and I'll do that over my 2 days. Sorry, I'll go to Joe and I'll come to Jamie. Sorry?
What does increased foreign investment mean for foreign buyers, please?
What it means for what I'm interested in is foreign investment is actually critical for us in terms of getting our roads built quicker, accessing capital, getting our projects down the road, making sure we can create jobs by having good JV partners, working with local companies. That creates growth opportunity for New Zealanders.
What if they want to buy property?
Again, that's an ongoing, that'll be a conversation we'll continue to have, but we have a different position from New Zealand First, and at that moment we haven't been able to come to an agreement on that.
You're going to have that discussion with the cabinet table as you open up foreign investment about potentially needing to go down the road of foreign.
Yeah, I just say to you again, what we're talking about with respect to foreign investment is the hundreds of millions and billions of dollars that we need in order to get roads built, in order to get joint ventures happening between our best domestic firms in New Zealand to partner with big global firms so they can actually go out and continue to grow to a next level status. What it means is actually iwi and international funds, investors coming together and working on infrastructure, housing projects, whatever it may be.
It also often means wanting a slice of the real estate, though. That's a reality.
Yeah, just say to you, yeah, we're talking something bigger, though, than just high net worth individuals that want to make investments in New Zealand. That's an important part of it, and we'll make sure the settings for that are attractive. But as you know, New Zealand First and National have different positions on it.
President Trump has threatened to take back the Panama Canal. He's also refused to rule out sending military forces into Greenland. Does that align with the rules-based international order that you often talk about?
Again, I'm not commenting on affairs of another country, but what I'm saying for New Zealanders and for New Zealand, we believe in the international rules-based system. We have been concerned about the conceding of rules to power, and we're going to continue to advocate very strongly for the values that we strongly say.
Would you discourage him from taking those?
We continue to advocate in all the global forum and international forum. I've done that through the course of the last 12 months, advocating for New Zealand values, which is about the respect for sovereign nation states. It's about the freedom of navigation, about the rules-based system. I'll continue to do that.
You have spoken out when other countries have threatened to do things, so why wouldn't you do it when
continue to do that across and make the case for the rules-based system everywhere I go.
Well, do you know, if you got people polling out of the low 30s, will you be the right person to lead National into the next election?
I'll just say to you, the only polls that are mattered, and I've said that right from when I've taken this job, is the next election. But for that to happen, we know what we need to do, which is to focus on driving economic growth in 2025. That's what we're going to do.
You're still really
Cool.
if you can't keep the polls under the low 30s.
I'm focused on delivering for New Zealanders. I came to this job because I think this country's got a great potential, and I'm going to die trying, doing everything I can to make sure that this great country has a better quality of life for all New Zealanders, and that's what I'm focused on.
National now a party of the low 30s.
I'd say National is a party that is focused on driving economic growth and improving the outcomes and the potential for New Zealand so our kids and our grandkids have an awesome future. That's why we're here, that's what we're focused on, and that's what actually matters. That's what matters, and we're going to focus on that.